had when somebody go, well, you can't have someone else because, Mitch is waiting for you up in heaven. Well, he's with a whole bunch of people up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I can go off that one, and if this is too far off, we'll save it for another time. There were some things that used to be very dear to me that were not helpful to me in the grief process. One of those I mentioned before was music that I love. Everything we sang in Thomas Road Choir was about being resurrected, but not Gary.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And so music was not helpful to me in the beginning. I'm back to that now, but not in the beginning. And then the other thing was what you just said, that we will be together again. If everyone is kind of on equal terms in heaven, then Gary won't be any more uniquely excited to see me than to see anybody else.
Right.
And so if there's no marriage in heaven, why do I want to go back to where I can see him there, but I don't get what I had before?
Right.
Obviously, that's such flawed thinking, because then I will be different also.
Right.
But the peace that came to me, because we do have to keep living in this world. We don't get to live the eternal life yet. The peace that came to me was, if marriage was this good here, what must that choice be?
Yeah.
And so I was finally able to reconcile some to that one.
Yes.
God has some plan that is so much better than that one. And maybe it won't matter who you arrive with at that point.
Yeah.
Because you perceive so many things as from childhood to adulthood, and you think, probably when we get to heaven, it's not going to be anything like that.
Right.
Because I don't know what that is. I can only live with what I know.
And that's where that song, I Can Only Imagine,
Yes.
we have no idea what.
One of the things that really bothered me at first was I started thinking, the most people that I see that have the most trouble accepting death and bad things in their life are Christians. And I don't get that. I really don't get that. Do we believe what we say we believe or not? And I know at first nothing makes sense. None of it makes sense. But after a while,
But for me, it was that I'm not anxious. It's not helpful to me to think that he's there waiting for me, because he's not uniquely waiting for me.
Yeah.
And that's a very selfish perception.
Yes. Yeah. Like that's the only thing he's doing is standing there. Where is she? Yeah.
You're late again.
Yeah. I knew she'd be late. Yep. So, I mean, we have a lot of things that aren't quite right. The way we think.
So maybe it's because we had all these things that we thought we knew. So maybe it's harder for Christians because we had this expectation of knowing and of accepting and of perceiving.
Yeah, that life is going to be.
And then find out we don't know near as much as we
Exactly.
knew.
Exactly. I think that sometimes we just have so much trouble accepting trouble and bad things. And I think.
But I think that's some of where
promised.
we have grown through this process.
Absolutely. I think it's important to remember that we're never promised.
Right.
An easy way through life.
So why shouldn't we experience difficulty, as in
we will
death?
Yeah, we will.
Rains on the just and the unjust.
Yes, the same.
And it's a matter of your perspective. You can either crawl in the corner and hide and refuse to come out. And I've seen people do that. They can't get past.
Right.
It was hard for me at the beginning just to hear my name. Because Mitch and I did so many things together. So it was Mitch and Martha.
You were Mitch and Martha. Yeah.
And because, we were in music ministry for 37 years together, and it was just, Eminem, Mitch and Martha. And to hear my name, I thought, oh, that sounds boring. Martha, why couldn't I have been named something else?
It's snazzy. Yeah. No. Yeah. But I get that because, you are a team. Everything's David and Becky, Mitch and Martha, Harry and Marilyn. Yeah. And then it's not.
And then if you come across someone who hasn't seen you for a while and they start to say that, and I'm like, it's okay. They're kind of like,
yeah. But there at the beginning, I was kind of like that. I didn't want to go out. I would send the boys to get things at the store for me. I didn't want to see people. It's all part of that Band-Aid. That was my Band-Aid for a while, and it's necessary. I will say yes, but
we could do a list of things that people are afraid of saying because it is hard to know what to say to a person in grief. But unless you're really doing something overtly hurtful, it's just better to communicate. Yeah. And if you say the name, say it. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people are so afraid that if they, like say, if they mention the name, you're just going to immediately break down into tears and
we might.
Yeah, never know.
But that's okay.
But that's okay. You know,
Yeah.
Or I found people who haven't been in contact and they need to share their grief because they loved Mitch too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so sometimes in talking to them, they'll just be crying and I'm okay. And then I feel like, do they think I'm miss him?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Yes.
You know, because each person, even a friend, you know, you grieve your friends.
Mm-hmm.
There's things like right now, I had some friends I would really love to be helping, but because Mitch and I always did it together and I'm having to do everything that Mitch and I did, I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
And that pains me. Did you find anything like that?
Not so much because I don't work outside of the home and that sort of thing. I had plenty of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just trying to choose what would really benefit me at the time as far as where I was in my walk
Mm-hmm.
with grief. You know, that's what I found hard. Is that really do I need to do that? Or is that beneficial to me? I really kind of, and I made a note, again, I have an extremely, probably to a fault, practical side. I do very few things unnecessarily in life. Very few. I'm just kind of like, I'm just very practical. And that served me well in life. It really has. But it doesn't serve someone well who's grieving, I don't think. Because the practical you craves comfort and familiarity. And grief and prolonged grief will give that to you.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It gives you what you need at the time. And you can stay there too long. You can stay there way too long. You have to force yourself out of a lot of things. Out of the house. Out of your own head. Out of ruminating. And I thought, I think I know what that means, but I looked it up. And it's thinking too hard and too long about something. And I just came to the conclusion that rumination can lead to ruination.
Hey,
it really can. You can sit too long. You can think too long without doing. Mm-hmm. And without getting up and moving forward. And that's what I had to deal with first. Is like, okay, I'm gonna go through this and I'm gonna deal with this and I'm gonna address all the issues I think need addressed. But then, and I was determined, but then I'm getting up. And I did. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for that mindset. And I know so many people have trouble finding that. Mm-hmm. And I hate that. And you mentioned it's so hard to know what to say. When I talk to somebody who's grieving, the main thing I tell them is you're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. You're going to be okay if you will allow yourself. You are going to be okay.
You do have to give yourself permission.
You do.
And kind of for me, because the various public people I'm with in different arenas, I had to get past worrying what other people would think.
Yes. Yes.
Because some people see a widow as the little old lady sitting in the corner crocheting, drinking her cup of tea.
Right.
And life goes on. We have to continue working to support ourselves, to, maintain family.
Right.
And I'm thinking, my son really doesn't want to see me sitting in a rocker, just not doing anything all day. you know, life goes on and you want to be happy.
Yes.
And productive. Your spouse wouldn't want you just.
No. And I think by healing, you can change the whole trajectory of your family.
Yeah.
You allow them the okay to be happy, the okay to move on, the okay to talk about dad without thinking mom's going to
fall apart,
lose it. You can change everything about the future of your family. If you will
even allow the family to know what was not perfect.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And give them permission to know that.
Yes.
Because they know.
Yeah, they know. They figured us out. Yeah. They know. They do.
And when they figure that out and can even ask you about it, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I first started dating, like when I said I decided, okay, I'm going to allow myself this amount of time. I'm going to work through this. And I did. I worked hard. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And that was difficult because I met David when I was 15 years old and I was widowed at 50. So for 35 years, you know, that's all I knew. And so I started dating and my kids were like, Mom. And I was like, you have to trust me. You have to trust me to make good decisions, to make right choices. But it's very hard to do, but that was a pivotal move. That was a pivotal move for me.
I can imagine.
It was.
Because, you know, I can see where family thinks you're being disloyal.
I don't think they thought that. I think they were just worried about me. And I get that. I really do. But I said, you just have to trust me. You have to trust me.
And in the early stages, my son would say, now, Mom, you've got plenty of girlfriends to go have coffee with them.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Just remember, you don't need a man. Yeah.
You tell him he has plenty of guy friends that he can go play sports too.
Yeah. But you need someone. Or I did. Mm-hmm. I needed someone.
There's time. I mean, you can talk to your girlfriends. You can talk to, I mean, you know, male friends at work. I mean, anything. Mm-hmm. But there's times when you just need a male perspective. You know, it doesn't have to be.
Which one of you started this with you need to be special to someone?
Sure. I need to know, you need to know about me.
You need to know that somebody is interested in you.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you're going to, you know, fly down the altar the next day.
Right. No.
One of my girlfriends said you need a person. You need your person. It's the one that you turn to.
Yeah.
And that you know will take your call and you know the person wants to hear from you.
Yes. That won't make you crazy in the middle of the night going,
yeah.
There's a noise outside. Yeah. I'm going to record this here and play it for you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Slightly different approach. I tried to keep doing the things that Gary was good at, but that I wasn't good at. He was much better at flowers outside and creating beauty. He was much better at seeing the need for just change in the house. And practical makes me think I wanted everything paid and everything comfortable but taken care of. He was much better at either moving the things around that we had or saying, come on, it's really time to replace this.
Yeah.
I would pack the kids' lunches and he would put an I love you note in them.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking we still need, of course, they were way beyond lunch packing, but the idea was still there, like on our beach trip. So I tried to take that place, but I can't be him.
No.
I have to be what I can best create of me.
Right.
So I certainly want to take those good parts and I certainly want to nurture those good parts in the children. So when I see one of them doing one of those things, I'll say, that's daddy doing it. You're doing what dad would have done.
Yeah.
But I can't be all of that. No. And again, it might have been you again. I can't remember which one. Are you ever not good enough?
Right.
That's especially where I'm not good enough because I can't be him.
Right.
But that's not what I'm called to do.
Right. No, we're called to be me.
No. Yeah. Be your best you, but share their stories.
Yeah. That was my role in creating children who can be something that others.
Yeah, we talked about we can see like our spouses and our grandchildren or children.
Yeah.
And I talked about my grandson Abel, who's very much like David. And I have a granddaughter, Daniel's little girl. Her name is Lakey, and she will talk the paint off a wall. And that is David Britt. Her mother, Tiffany, is very kind of reserved. And she said, we go out in public and Lakey will just talk to everyone and everyone. I'm like, come on, let's go. But that's just her. And I said, that is David Britt, if I've ever seen that, because that's how he was. He was a people person, and she definitely is. Definitely.
Wow.